Welcome to another electrifying episode of the Commentary Booth live via satellite, where we peel back the curtain on your favorite wrestlers and their cinematic inspirations. I'm your host, Jamie Upps, and today we're cranking up the excitement with a thrilling guest who has been pivotal in helping establish North Queensland's wrestling scene with the Queensland Wrestling Alliance. This man is a three-time QWA Tag Team Champion, a former WAR Tag Team Champion, QWA Middleweight, QWA United Heavyweight, and Pro Wrestling League Openweight Champion. Joining us live via satellite, none other than the Multiverse Marauder himself, Trent O'Day.
G'day. How are you doing?
Not too bad yourself? I assume it's
Yep.
probably warmer up that way?
It's been all right, actually. It has been slightly warmer, but we're having a peak Townsville sort of winter into spring period where it's like perfect weather. It's really, really good. It's not too cold. It's not too breezy. It's not too hot. It's not too muggy. It's actually been really nice. Spent the morning out watching the young fella play soccer, so it's been really, really fun today.
Awesome. So thanks for joining me on the show to chat about your favorite movies and their influence on your wrestling career. Before we deep dive into that, how big a part of your life are movies and TV shows?
They have gotten significantly bigger. Funnily enough, the more I consume wrestling, the bigger it's gotten. So I never used to be like a movie and TV shows guy ever. Like I was always, especially because my family were always massive sports people. So we were always out of the house. Like we were always training or going to someone's games or, going over to families' places to watch games and sporting events and stuff like that. I didn't really do a lot of that growing up. And then when I fell back into wrestling and I sort of learned a little bit more about sort of like story arcs, character nuance, things like that, that genuinely interested me as a late teen, early adult, I consume it a hell of a lot more now than I ever have before. So never used to be a big part of my life, definitely a much bigger part of my life now.
How is it balancing TV watching with a young child as well?
Not good. It's definitely taken a hit since Bubba's come along. We're really lucky in the sense that, like, obviously my partner has had, like, this is her fourth child, so she's been really good at sort of implementing all of the routines and stuff that she's used for her previous children. So it's been really good to just sort of sit back and watch a master at work, as it were, and I'm just not floundering around just panicking the whole time. So funnily enough, she's actually made it very, very simple. So we still do get a lot of that time to consume a little bit, but definitely not as much as it was before Bub come along. But hopefully the older he gets, the more we can sort of get back to it a little bit. But it hasn't been too bad.
And you mentioned your family was sort of all sport related. Is that what led you down the wrestling path? Because it was kind of sport, but something that you enjoyed as well?
Yeah, a little. I think it was a weird, like, my story into wrestling's really, really strange. So I never liked it as a kid. Like it was never something that came up on my radar. It was really, really just all like, it was soccer, rugby league, like just the standards. And then when my brother came along, my half brother, he just randomly started watching it, and I was like, this is weird. And then I think the more I watched it with him, because he was young, he's 5 years younger than me, so I was kind of just like, oh, I'll just sit down and see what interests him. And I started watching it as banter to sort of pay him out. But then I found, like, maybe 3 or 4 weeks in, I was like, this is actually really cool. Like, I actually kind of really like this. And then I watched it for a bit, and then I went to uni, and I got off it again completely. And I missed like a big chunk between I want to say 2011 and 2014, 15-ish. Like, I missed that chunk there. And then I sort of got back into it when I was overseas. And I'd always been like a massive like drama kid. Like, I love drama. I loved acting. Like, that was always something that I found really fun. And I'd always played sport, obviously, since I was like 6 years old. But yeah, the weird amalgamation just came from well, I really like acting on stage and like doing that. And obviously, I played sport for the longest time. So I really like that. And then once I found out that Townsville had a wrestling company, I was like, you know what? I'm sure I could give this a go and just see what it's like. And if I hate it, then fine. Like I can just quit and it doesn't need to be a big deal. But yeah, that was sort of how it started. It was just a weird amalgamation of my brother's influence and then, yeah, finding it again randomly at like 3 o'clock in the morning in the UK. It was really strange.
Very nice. So then, now the big question for today: what have you chosen as the movie or TV show that has most influenced your wrestling once you got sucked into that world?
Yeah, so there was a lot that I could have gone with because as a character, I have gone through lots of different little arcs that I kind of had thought about choosing. Um, but one that I've really stuck with, and I've just sort of always, once I developed the idea of it, I thought it was a really easy way to like tie. So the reason I chose it, I'll backtrack a little bit, is I remember Shawn Michaels, I think, had an interview like years ago, and he basically said that like everything he's done with his character and everything he's done with like the Shawn Michaels gimmick has made sense in an overarching storyline. Like like as a whole, from like beginning of career to end of career, he's like a majority of it has all made sense for where the character was at, and he's always gone through a progression. And when I was first starting, I didn't really understand that, and then the longer I was in wrestling, I figured it out, and I have gone with Rick and Morty as my TV show. And the reason for that is because I am currently doing like the Multiverse Marauder sort of thing. Um, and I've always really loved the idea of the alternate versions of self kind of thing as a different way of looking at a character as opposed to the same person going through different cycles of their life. Like that's obviously a very well used and very obvious trope, which is good. Like, and you know, it works for a lot of characters. But um, yeah, I've always enjoyed the idea of instead of one person going through multiple changes, what if it was multiple versions of the same person? Um, and sort of how do those characters interact with each other and what's the story flow on effect of that. So I chose Rick and Morty in the end of it. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. I think that makes sense too within particularly independent wrestling, where you're going from company to company to company. You don't have to try and make sure all of those storylines link together and make overall sense. Like over here, I can be the total asshole bad guy, and then over here, I'm the best nice guy of all time.
Yeah, and that was exactly what I had envisioned when I did it. So it came about when me and my tag partner at the time were looking at traveling to different companies, but we didn't have a solid idea because like we were massive baby faces where we had come from, but then we were going places and being heels. And I
Mhm.
was like, it doesn't make sense. I'm like, I don't like, not that it didn't make sense. Like it doesn't have to make sense really. Like no one really cross products or watches a cross product or whatever. But I just thought to myself, well, what if we could make it different? What if we could do something that's a little more niche, a little more outside of the box thinking, and something that hasn't really been done in wrestling yet? And so I was sort of playing around with the idea of, well, what if the companies were different, like universes type of thing? And then the number of the universe was just the postcode. So like universe 4810 is just the postcode for Townsville, like the overarching area. So like that was, so I played around with that. And then I was like, well, that makes sense because we want to travel to different companies. So if we're universe or multiverse travelers, then cool. Like that would make sense as to why we are in different places at different times. And that makes sense as to why, we're popping up in all these different places with different goals and different, demeanors at every place. Like it just all, to me, it made the most sense for a traveling gimmick. And I'd all got that idea because I'd really loved the idea of just Rick and Morty traveling to different places and having to deal with like different hijinks. And in some universes they were seen as like being good guys, and other universes they'd completely ruin them, and then just they'd be the bad guys. And I was like, well, that's kind of the story that we were trying to tell from the get-go. So why not just incorporate that into pro wrestling? And obviously I wasn't the only one that had the idea, because then you had Forbidden Door pop up literally like 6 months after I'd had the original idea and like we'd started doing it. I then all of a sudden heard Forbidden Door, Wrestling Multiverse. I'd heard all of it. Like 6 months after I'd come up with the idea, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm not the only one that's thought this way.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I think, yeah, with like social media too, like if you're going to all these different companies, do you want to share? One day you're sharing, here we are being total good guys, everyone loves us. The next day I'm putting up a clip where I'm beating down the champion for no reasons. Like that makes it hard. So at least with this gimmick, it makes total sense. Like that's a different version of me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's not the me that you see. That's a different me that's doing different stuff. And we used to film, so like a lot of the promos that we filmed at the start they were all like comedy style promos, and they were all filmed in like different styles. Like we did an office style sort of thing, so we like did like an office spoof, and then we did like a horror movie one, and then we did like just a straight up like sit down. We did a bunch of different styles just to play with it, and even though every promo was like comedy styled, we found creative ways of making ourselves either the villains if we needed to be, or the heroes if we needed to be. So like the promo styles would all be done with like tongue-in-cheek humor, but they would be done to provide justification either way as to why we were acting this way. So anyone who just jumped on and were like, oh, I thought they were good guys, would still see that, oh, okay, at least they've attempted to try and justify themselves with this promo material. So then we also tried really hard to make sure that that was okay as well.
Yeah, it gives you a ton of creative freedom as well, where you are able to do all different styles of promo, different types of gear for different shows, and it doesn't look out of place as well.
So funny you say that. So one of the things that I desperately wanted to do that I haven't had the chance to do yet, that I will do at some point, um, is I wanted to go through just a phase of like 12 months where the multiverse marauder version of me, the one that wears like the blue and gold, can't make shows. So instead, he sends different versions of him to the shows to fight for him. And so I want to, and then in those 12 months, I would just try every outrageous gimmick that I could find. So like I'd be like a tradie, I'd be like a nurse. I just wanted to go through like every single gimmick that I could think of that would be fun to try for a night, and then just use that as an excuse to run through different gimmicks for a year and just have fun with it. And I was like, the only reason I could do that and the only reason it makes sense is because I'd introduced the concept of these alternate versions. Whereas it would be more difficult, I think, to pull off. You could still do it, but I think it would be more difficult to pull off if it was one character going through different gimmicks every month. Like I think that it could be a little bit more difficult to do.
Yeah, and I think it also makes you a little bit more flexible for promoters to bring you into, given Townsville quite a long way away from anything. So if you're able to come in and fit any story that they have, like, oh, we need a guy for this, Trent's the guy to bring in.
Yeah, and that was once again like another part of, I think it was Slater that put something up at one point where he just said like you've got to know your role. Like you've got to know your role, you've got to fit a role, you've got to be able to slot into wherever a promoter needs you to be. So if it's enhancement talent, if it's main event, if it's comedy jobber, if it's big baby face, if it's Weasley heel, like you've got to be able to know where you fit on the show. You've got to know where you fit on the card, and you know sometimes it's nothing to do with your working ability. Sometimes it's just your character doesn't fit the role that is needed on that show. So my retort to that was effectively, well, what if I could fit every role? What if I could find a way to fit any role that anyone needed from me? You know, aside from being a 300 kilo powerhouse, which unfortunately I just can't eat that much. I just can't, like, I can't fit that role. But anything else, like character wise, if I have an excuse and an ability to be able to fit those roles, then why would I not do that? Why would I not find a way to do that? And I think with the multiverse thing, I found a really easy way to slot into whatever story people needed me to slot into. And I could easily book my way out of it as well if I needed to.
Yeah, like if you're, say, like a caveman Arg or a Jake Andrew Arthur, they're big, huge guys. They kind of have to play that role, whereas you can fit into multiple different roles.
Yeah, and that was the whole thing. Is I just valued. I think I valued. It was versatility over one overall. Like when you're going to different companies and you want to get booked places, you've got to be versatile. And I'm not saying that I've been booked everywhere by any means, because like God knows, it's been, Townsville's really difficult to leave. Like, the
Mhm.
the flights to get anywhere are super expensive. So God knows, like if I could get booked every other weekend, I would. And so I'm not saying that I've done that, but when I have been booked in other places, I have always prided myself on being able to at least be versatile. I can't do, you know, I can't do everything, but I can do most things. And if I can do most things, that's, to me, I think a lot more valuable to a one-time promoter than if I can do one thing really, really well, but it doesn't really fit with their show. Then,
Yep.
you know, then that's going to cost me a lot more bookings than, hey, there's only about 3 things that I can't do, but the rest of it, I can find a way to make that work for you.
So then, in terms of Rick and Morty, how were you first introduced to the show?
I think I caught it late. Or not late. I caught it season 3. So I had seen clips of it come about, and I didn't gel with the art style at first. Like I saw the way it looked, and for me, like I love really pretty animation. Like I love really pretty art styles. I love really good looking like special effects, CGI, like even well drawn anime style. Like I love that sort of thing. So the art style straight away didn't grip me, and so I was like, well, it looks a little bit tacky. And this was before that kind of style had become a hardcore norm. So like with a lot of cartoons now, they value that simplistic art animation style because, I don't know, it sort of looks simple but fun, and that's kind of like the vibe that the shows give off.
I remember when I first saw it, I looked at it and was like, "Oh, it looks like a web series type show."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That was kind of what I thought as well, and I was like, oh, I don't know if that looks really any good. Like it kind of looks a bit rubbish. But then I kept seeing clips of it, and I can't remember what clip it was exactly, but it was from like the first or second season. I think this is right, but I think it's the one where the parasites infect everybody. And so they keep imagining characters that they think they've known their whole lives, but they haven't. Like it's just a space parasite that makes them think that.
Mhm.
And I think I saw a clip from that show or from that episode, and it made me giggle uncontrollably. And I was just like, it's so dumb. Like it's so silly. And I couldn't stop thinking to myself about that particular clip. And I just giggle every time I watched it. And I was like, you know what? If it's taken this much of my time, I'll give it a crack. And I remember I watched like the first 2 or 3 episodes, like just on my own. And then from then on, I think I binged like the whole 3 seasons that were out at that point, or 2 seasons, or whatever it was that was out at that point. And I just binged the whole lot. And I got sucked into like the whole universe, multiple universes theory, and I loved all that. And I loved the character of like Rick versus the character of Morty. And especially now that they're, a couple more seasons in, the character arcs that they've gone on as well to try and develop like a bit of deeper understanding for the story rather than just kind of making it a gag show. That was really cool to watch. So yeah, I just got introduced to it because I couldn't get this stupid clip out of my head. And I just kept giggling about it. But yeah, it was a really weird find, but it captured me since then for sure.
Are you a trading card collector or a fan of Australian pro wrestling? If so, you're not going to want to miss out on the limited edition Australian wrestling cards. Each set includes 50 packs of 10 cards, including some of the country's top wrestling talents like Robbie Eagles, Shane Haste, Madison Eagles, Hartley Jackson, and they have Shaza McKenzie listed, although she is not a favorite. The velocities, and a lot more. There's wrestlers, referees, announcers, commentators that are featured, giving you a full appreciation of the Australian independent scene. The cards sold out a lot faster because cards are hot right now, as I'm sure Jeremy Lambert will tell you. But you can order your Australian wrestling cards now at Pario Magazine. That's Pario magazine.com.au/AUS WRES cards. Follow Australian Wrestling Cards on social media at AusResCards for updates. Join the hundreds of fans who have already discovered the excitement of Australian wrestling cards.
It sounds like your intro to Rick and Morty was very similar to the wrestling intro of, okay, I'll watch it. And the next thing you knew,
Yeah.
you were hooked.
Yeah. I mean, I do that a lot. I think I don't give a lot of chance, actually. Like, there's a lot where I'm very set in my ways with certain things, and it's got to be really good to sort of capture me. But anything that can hold my attention, anything that can usually make me laugh, is something that I hold on to, because I find I don't laugh that easily at like TV shows and things. I find it very difficult to burst out laughing at a show. So if I can find a show that does that, it usually hooks me pretty quickly after that.
I think that's pretty justifiable to be sort of set in your ways these days with so much content available to us, some of it fantastic, some of it not so great. To just kind of have the things that you know you love, you only have a certain amount of time every day to watch something. I'm just going to watch something I love rather than give something a chance and then potentially have wasted my 1 hour of downtime.
Yeah, and that's literally I said that to my partner just the other day. I said there is so much how much time now do you find that there is so much content out there? Like we're like, as an industry, it's the most consumable thing that it's ever been. Like, it's the most available that it's ever been. And yet how many times do you find yourself sitting in front of your multiple streaming services and going, there's nothing to watch.
Mhm.
Like, there's nothing on. Like, I don't want to watch any of this. Like, because it's just so, everything's so available now. Every genre, every medium, every style of show, every actor, every new actor, they're all available. All
Yep.
available all the time. And so everyone has become so selective with their tastes. I don't think it's just a me thing. I think it's
Mhm.
everyone as a whole has become so selective with the things that they will use their time to watch, because they've been spoilt for choice. If you only have the choice between spaghetti and salad, right, every night, you'll take whatever, right? If something new comes along, you'll take whatever comes along, because eventually you get sick of just spaghetti or whatever. But
Mhm.
you know, if you have, if it's just spaghetti and just salad, and all of a sudden there's a table filled with just endless
Everything
bounds of
manageable.
different things, you're going to go, oh, well, actually, I might just stick with spaghetti or salad. Like, I'm just going to focus on the things that I've been having this whole time, because that's too much choice.
Yep.
Or you start looking for things that look exactly like spaghetti or salad, but they're a little bit different. You just want to try and look for the things that you enjoy. So yeah, I think it's a big problem with streaming services now. And I think it's not just me that has it. I think it's a like a wide scale problem. I would hope so anyway. I hope it's not just me who's sitting here being very picky about what I consume.
Oh, no, definitely not. Like, I think TV in particular has become so disposable. It's binge through a series, on to the next thing. Nobody sort of sits and marinates on a show or watches it a few times and really digs into all of the nuance. And even
Hmm.
even wrestling too, like, there is so much wrestling on offer these days that it's hard to sit down and watch. I personally don't watch all of it. I watch the one things that I like and that's it.
But I'm with you. Like and first of all, like the way that people consume shows now and the way that the shows are made is so different. Like so long gone. So I watched The Walking Dead for the first time. Like I went back to season one because I'd never finished it. So I went back to season one and watched it right the way through. Right. I forgot that TV shows were 15, 16, 17 episode like seasons. I forgot seasons were 15 to 20 episodes long. I forgot that that was a thing that used to happen. I rewatched Friends and I forgot that seasons were 22, 23 episodes long. And I was like, where are all these episodes coming from? And then you go to like a Peaky Blinders and it's like 8 hours, 8 episodes, 1 hour each.
Yep. Yeah, if you're lucky to get 8, some only get 6.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, what are we doing here? I was like, yeah, I get that Peaky Blinders and Friends, completely different quality of show. Like one is a very easy set to go sitcom, and the other one is like a pretty high budget, historic, like a period piece. I get that, but you know, we've become so used to just accepting like, yeah, no, 8 episodes is a season. I'm like, what are you talking about? Eight episodes is nothing. That's 8 hours. Like even at Friends at 20 episodes, like you feel like you're getting so much more because they're 20 to 30-minute episodes along 22. So yeah, it's really, even that's really strange, the way that it's consumed now. But wrestling wise, man, I'll be the first to admit I watch local product and that's it. Like you'll get me on the big WWE shows. You'll get me on like anything that PWA, EPW, even MCW can like make available, like you'll get me on that. Like any local product, any of our stuff, I'll watch that for, to see how the other guys in the other states are going and support my friends in those feds. But like Robbie Eagles got me onto like New Japan. So like I watch him and I watch like Zack Sabre and like TMDK, like the TMDK boys, like I watch them because like, I have an Australian investment in hoping that those boys do well. So but outside of that, man, like you won't catch me watching Raw or SmackDown every week.
Oh,
Like
no.
it's too much. It's way
Yeah.
too much. I can't be expected to watch that.
Yeah, like you just look at WWE, there's what, 7 hours of just TV a week?
I don't know how people are finding that much time.
Yeah. Like if you watched all of AEW TV every week and all of WWE TV each week, it's like 15 hours a week. It's like a part-time job.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's ridiculous. Like when you think about if you work from 8 till 5 every day, then you've got to like, if you've got general health stuff, so like you'll go to the gym or you'll go, go shopping or, whatever it is you do to look after yourself, you take another 2 hours out of your day. Then you've got to make dinner. Then if you've got kids and stuff, you've got to usually do bedtime routines, whatever. You're looking at 7:30, 8 o'clock before you've really got a minute to yourself to sit down. And then you're asking me to watch 3 hours of Raw? What are you talking about? Like, there is no way that I could then fit that in. Then the next day, I've got to watch whatever AEW is putting out. Then the next day, I'm sure that there's a New Japan thing going up or something that I've got to keep up with. So then I've got to watch that. Then there's a pay-per-view on Sunday, so I've got to sit down for the 5 hours that goes along, or 4 hours that goes along, and give that up. Then if there's any local product, then people want me to, because I've got trainees and stuff as well, so I want to watch their footage back and make sure that they're progressing. I've got to sit down and I've got to look at that and go, rightio, what's training going to look like for this week? There's so much like TV, man. Like there's so much wrestling available. Like I don't think anyone could be expected to sit down and watch it all and enjoy it all. That's
Yep.
the other thing too, is like I love, like, I don't know, I put into context of like any film or TV, like I love a lot of what Marvel put out. Well, I'd loved a lot of what Marvel had put out, but I think if I was sat and forced to watch it every day for 15 hours across a week, I'd hate it
Yeah, but you
instantly.
just
Like
get over it so quickly.
yeah, and I don't know how people don't do that with wrestling. Like if you're consuming that much wrestling, it boggles my mind as how do people just don't sit there and go, oh my god, just skip to the end. Like, because wrestling, for all, much like TV, for all of the good stuff, there's some crap there, man.
Oh
Like
yeah.
there's some just straight up garbage. Like, and God bless them, because like I'm like, far be it from me to call anyone else's work not good. Like I'm more than happy to sit there and go like, hey, they'll do more with their wrestling than I ever will. So good on them. But just, performers have off days, athletes have off days, matches don't go to plan. Like we all know the nature of live show business. You've got to sit through a lot of hours, and like how much of that is going to be really, really insane and worth your time, and how much of it is going to be a paint by numbers, cookie cutter, time filler, toilet break match.
Yep.
You got to weigh up whether it's worth it or not, I suppose.
So then, character-wise, who would you say you most closely resemble personality-wise, Rick or Morty?
Yeah. I knew this question was coming, and I still don't have an answer prepared for it, because like in ways I had tried to do both in different scenarios. So when we had the tag team, I wanted it very much for my friend, like my partner Gabe. I wanted him to be the Morty of the group and me to be the Rick, because he has this uncanny ability to be hyper entertaining as a goofball. Like he plays the goofball role really, really well. And just I had that idea of just sort of like, I would play the serious, like, this is what we've got to get done. This is how we do it. I know how to get it finished mentality of like the Rick character. And he would play the Morty style. But I think after a few weeks of us mulling it over, I changed tact a little bit, and I kind of, for some reason, like us just playing the reverse role of it when we would shoot promos and things was just, for some reason, more entertaining. Like we would just find ourselves giggling a lot more if he was trying to be serious and I was acting like an idiot. And so we ended up going the reverse way. And I ended up being the Morty who was just a fool and didn't really understand what was going on. And then he would be the straight down the line, no, we've got to do this. We've got to hit this. Like, this is where we're going, focus up, da, 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 da. So yeah, I would say that I've played both, in a way. And then, funnily enough, with the Multiverse Marauder, like when I went away on my own because Gabe retired, when I went and did my own thing with it, I kind of turned into that weird like Beth character, like, but the one that went away and like come back as like a badass sort of thing, like where he, it was revealed that Rick had cloned his daughter so that she could go out and explore the universe, and the clone would stay home. I kind of like found myself being like, oh, this is kind of like a Beth arc sort of thing. So yeah, I sort of played that, goofy but serious style character, and tried to play that off as much as I could towards the end. So yeah, I definitely did a bit of all of it, but the most fun was being the Morty character. I think I really enjoyed that part of it.
I wonder if that's because you're more of a straight-laced person and like the straight man. So when you are playing that wacky character, you know how to play off that. And Gabe would have been the same of he's the wacky guy, so he knows what he needs from a straight man.
I think you're absolutely right. And like, I think subconsciously you do that more than consciously. Like I have said this in wrestling so many times. The best heels are the nicest guys. Like the best heels in the business are the nicest human beings you will ever meet, because they are inherently not that way. They are so sweet and so caring, and usually they're just like so for the other person, that when they go out there and they get a chance to flex their heel muscle, they know everything that is completely anti them. They know the little movements that they wouldn't make. They know the little things that they wouldn't say, that a generally arrogant person, like a genuinely arrogant person, wouldn't know that, because they just act that way all the time. They would just bring their straight personality into a heel role, and it can fall a little flat and get a little stale. But I think in the same way that the nicest guys make the best heels, I think the straightest people make the funniest goofballs, and I think vice versa is really good as well, because they know what is expected from the roles opposite them. And hopefully when we played those roles, we did them justice. But that was always the aim, was to flip the script a little bit with that.
So then, if you could travel to any fictional universe aside from Rick and Morty, which would you choose and why?
See, these questions are always hard, right? Because I feel like if anyone got the opportunity to just go to another universe, it would inherently be terrifying. Like most of the other universes would inherently just be so scary. And you don't get any powers that come along with them. So first of all, you'd be like, oh, I'd love to go to the Dragon Ball Z universe because I'd love to turn Super Saiyan. No, you're not doing that.
Yeah, you're just one of the dudes in the towns.
Yeah, you're just the guys that get killed. Like you're straight up, like your risk of death in those universes is so high. So, with that said, I think the only acceptable answer where my rate or my chance of death gets lower and yet would still be fun is I think I would travel to the Pokemon universe. I think. Because if 10-year-olds can do it, surely a 30-year-old man could do it, right?
Yeah, surely we could
And
survive.
surely we could survive. And I would assume that, I've played all the games and everything seems pretty idyllic. Yeah, every now and again, somebody tries to end the world a little bit. But once again, a 10-year-old can fix it. So hopefully, as a 30-year-old man, I'm not in too much danger. I get to catch some cool friends. I get to do a little battling or whatever. And then my risk of death, I think, is lower. And I don't have to deal with any weird, like, Death Note shenanigans. I don't have to deal with any Avengers running around. I don't have to deal with, pirates on the seven seas. It's just standard. There's some monsters that are a little bit bigger than animals we have now, and children catch them and play with them. Done. I don't think that anything negative can come out of that. So I'm going to go with Pokemon, I think, for that. What about you?
That's a good choice. I never even considered that. But yeah, I would have said Dragon Ball. And then, yeah, when you bring up, yeah, you're just a guy. You're just someone in a town.
God, bro, you're dead. Just dead. Like,
Alien race shows up, destroys your whole town, you're dead.
yeah, exactly. Like, you're like, I'd love to see Dragon Ball. And then you would walk out. And then within a couple of months, you'd see a small speck of blue and then death. And then that's it. And you're like, oh, well, I wasted my chance because I thought that I wanted to see this. You didn't. You'd probably never even meet the main characters because why would they hang out with you? You're just a guy who traveled through time, like space, to get there. You're probably not meeting them, and then you're just going to get evaporated. And that's the things I think about when people pose me these questions, because I straight away go, how could I die in this universe? How could I die? And then I immediately go the furthest away from that. I think Pokemon's the right choice. Because even Digimon are bigger than them. Like, even Digimon, like, terrorized a town.
Digimon people get messed up all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, I'm not doing that. So I think Pokemon is the safe choice. I think.
Even like Batman, like the Batman universe. Batman himself doesn't have any powers, but there's just psychopaths running around everywhere.
Yeah, like, Gotham is objectively a terrible place to live. Just from wall to wall, the worst town to be in. And one guy isn't saving everyone. Like, he might save, a small segment of, like, maybe, like, a kidnapping ring, or maybe he beats, like, 5 or 6 bad guys that took a few hostages. The net loss for the Gotham City Police Department is still so massive. Like, yeah, Batman saved 8 people. That's great. There were still 64 murders on the other side of town.
The Joker or the Riddler like blew a whole building up. Yeah, everyone in that building was dead, but you saved that one person from falling out the window.
Yeah, exactly. It's +8 minus 281. Like, you're like, oh well, good on Batman though. Terrifying place to live. Objectively terrifying place to live.
I think the only solution that would maybe make it better is if Batman finally did what needed to be done and killed the Joker.
Yeah, just at this point, and I've also had this conversation. My partner and I have this. So one of the reasons my partner and I get along so well is because not only do we love watching movies and films together, but we think along the same lines when it comes to the way that characters should act. And we will sit and we will argue or debate or just agree with each other for hours between episodes. And one of the big things we come up with is, at this point, Batman's in the wrong. Like, at this point, he is the villain. There is so many opportunities for him to just end what is going on, right? And at this point, the Joker has killed so many people that it's not worth it anymore. Like, you're part of the problem now. The fact that you keep putting him back in the same place that he escapes from every time, and you have done nothing to fix it, and you just keep, like, insanity, repeating the same thing, expecting different results. He's at fault. At some point, the people of Gotham have to rise up and just go, you're the problem. You're just as bad. Just kill him. Or cut off his legs. Do something. Like, just, you don't
do
have
something
to
a bit
kill him.
more.
Just anything. Cut his arms off. Just make him a walking, like, make him not a vegetable. That's horrible. Make him just like a potato. Like, just cut him off at the elbow and the knee, and then sit him somewhere, and then just go, there you go. Be in one of those little trolleys that people have to wheel around. At least then it's harder for him to get stuff going. But he's doing nothing, and it's objectively making the town worse.
So then, like we said, Rick and Morty has been super influential on you. It's also had a large impact on the media landscape in general, spawning a bunch of spin-off shows like Solar Opposites, the Star Trek Lower Decks, Big Mouth, and the game High on Life. Did you ever get into any of those?
I watched Big Mouth because I am my 9 to 5 is an educator, and I find their take on teenage puberty hysterical, because it is exactly what teenagers go through. And I don't care, like, what anyone says or how crass the show is. If you want one of the most accurate yet vulgar takes on what a teenager goes through during puberty, that's it. Like, Big Mouth is it. They pull no punches. The amount of stuff that my partner has looked at me and go, ew, do young boys do that? And I'm looking at her dead in the eyes and I go, yes. Yes, they do.
Every day.
They are disgusting. Young men are gross, and that's what happens. Like, that is exactly how they behave. So Big Mouth I got into. I loved that. I've never seen Solar Opposites or the other two. It was mainly Solar Opposites I wanted to get into, but I just haven't found the time, once again, to consume it. But Big Mouth I just jumped on straight away, because I was just like, I know this is going to be funny. I know it's going to be funny, and it absolutely is.
So then, as we close out the episode, as a veteran of North Queensland's wrestling scene, what is your best piece of advice for younger wrestlers who are searching for character inspiration?
All right. So, and I've said this to my trainees too. My biggest piece of advice for anyone that is looking for a character or looking for something to develop as a way to get better as a performer, or to stand out as a performer, take inspiration 100%. Take inspiration from wherever you find the most joy. So if you find, for example, the most joy in another show that I really love, so like Peaky Blinders, if you really enjoy that and you take enjoyment from that show and you like those characters, take inspiration from them, but do not become a carbon copy of them. Like, it's all about taking what you love and taking what you enjoy and making it your own, and finding a way to put your own personal spin on it. I think a lot of the issues that younger or newer professional wrestlers have to the scene is they find a character that's really cool and they go, yep, well, I'm just going to be them because they're a really fun character. So I'm just going to be them, and I will use all of their mannerisms and all of their traits, and I will become them. And then that will make me entertaining.
It probably does in the first sort of one or two outings, but then it quickly gets stale with the audience because they go, oh, you're just that guy.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, well, we've seen a better show. Like, if I was pretending to be Tommy Shelby as a wrestler, people would be like, that's great, but I've seen Tommy Shelby on Peaky Blinders, and that show is better than your wrestling. And that's that's the long and the short of it. So yeah, take inspiration from the things that you love, and always root whatever you do in something that you enjoy, but don't become a carbon copy of what you see. Like, always find a way to make it your own, find a way to make it personal. And you'll find that not only will you grow a further appreciation for the character that you've created, but you'll protect it more, you'll love it more, and your love for that character will shine through, and then the crowd will love it more as well.
Yeah, you've got to put your own creativity into it as well. You can't just take someone else's creativity and use it as your own.
Yep, 100%.
So then, looking ahead, what's in store for you in the world of wrestling?
So, immediately we've got our September 7 show, Neon Nights, coming up, and we've got we're rounding out the show with the year with a couple of really big shows. For me personally in wrestling, though, my goal right now is to focus on training the next generation of guys we have coming through Townsville. I'd love to sit there and say to myself that I'm going to be, everywhere in wrestling, and I'm going to travel to as many places as possible. The odds are that I am going to do that, but it's not going to be to wrestle as much as it is going to be to train and learn off of other people, so that I can come back to Townsville and teach the people here what I've learned. Like, I think that my drive in life is to teach people. That's why I do what I do as my job, and that's why I love the job that I do and the things that I do. I think I've been put on this earth to educate and to teach and to show people how to do things. So what's next for me in wrestling is people will see me around, and they will see me at different places, I hope, because I still have some things I want to tick off, but a lot of it will be training, learning, and bringing it back up to Townsville, and hopefully growing a place that we can be proud of up here.
Yeah, and who knows, like maybe the next big Australian star is already training under you.
That's the plan. Like, I've always said that as long as the people that come out of QWA enjoy their time there and fall in love with professional wrestling, then I've done my job. But if we could produce the quality that Australia is capable of producing, and I can put my name to that, then that's it's not about me, but it's a nice little feather in my cap that I can say, well, at least I've achieved one of my goals as well.
Brilliant. So finally, where is the best place for people to support you and track this wrestling journey moving forward?
So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, at O'Day QWA. The handles are the same. Same thing on Twitter, or X, I should say. It's not Twitter anymore. At O'Day QWA. You can follow me there. You can also follow the Queensland Wrestling Alliance at QWA Wrestling on Instagram, and on Facebook, Queensland Wrestling Alliance as well. We are, trying to grow as much as possible, and we'd really appreciate any eyes on the journey.
Wonderful. Alrighty. Thank you everyone for listening to the commentary booth live via satellite. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow me on social media at JamyUps Media and at Pario Magazine. And once again, thank you, Trent, for taking the time to chat with me, and good luck with everything for the rest of the year.
Cheers, man. Thank you very much.